Hi, mathematical fifth graders. Today we are going to be working with lesson 2.5, which is multiplying decimals. The learning targets are listed here at the end of this lesson. You should be able to find the product of decimals. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. You'll be able to decide where the decimal point should go in your answer, and you will estimate products. Giving an estimate will help you know if your answer is correct. So, whenever you're given a multiplication or division problem, you should first make an estimate of the answer. And the purpose of estimating when you multiply decimals is to help place the decimal point in your product. Now, if you look at the problems that are here, each of these problems will have the digits 3, 6, and 4 in their product. So I'm going to begin by doing my estimate. 2 and 8/10 would be rounded to 3. 1 and 3/10 would be rounded to 1. And so my estimate would be that my product should be around 3. And again, I told you the digits in all of the answers on this page are the digits 3, 6, and 4. So based on my estimate, my decimal point would be placed right here. 3 and 64 hundredths is close to the whole number 3. In the next example, I'm going to round 2 and 8/10 again to 3. I'm going to leave 13 exactly the way it is. And my estimate is 39. And again, if I look at my digits, based on my estimate, I should place my decimal point here. 39 is close to 36 and 4/10. And in the third example, 0 and 28 hundredths is less than 1. 1 times 1 is 1. I know my answer should be less than 1. And this number is about 0.3 or 3/10. So I'm thinking my answer should be somewhere around 3/10. So if I look at the digits, I would predict that my decimal point should go right here. Because again, I was estimating that my answer would be about 3/10. And if I just look at this digit, I've got about 3/10. So my decimal point would go right there. So again, I did an estimate. And based on that estimate, I place my decimal point. So the steps that I can follow are given here. Move this up a little bit. First, make a magnitude estimate. Then multiply the factors as if they were whole numbers. Use whatever multiplication method is comfortable for you. That might be lattice or the more traditional multiplying. Once I've multiplied those whole numbers, use my estimation from step 1 to place the decimal point in the product. So that's one way to determine the decimal point. I'm going to do a product like that. 16 and 3/10 times 4 and 7/10. First, I'm going to do my estimate. I'm going to round this to 16. And 4 and 7/10 is close to 5. So my estimate would be 16 times 5, 80. Then I'm going to do step 2. Multiply these numbers as if they were whole numbers. I'm going to use just a traditional multiplication. 7 times 3 is 21. Carry this 2. And I don't need that one there. 7 times 6 is 42. Plus 2 is 44. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 4 is 11. Now I'm going to be multiplying by 40. So there's my 0 for the ones placeholder. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. And 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. I'm going to add. And based on my estimation, I would think that my decimal point should go right there. 76 and 61 hundredths. That whole number 76 is close to the estimate that I had made of 80. So again, multiply, after I make my estimate, multiply the numbers as whole numbers, and then place my decimal point based on the estimate. The second way that I can decide where the decimal point goes is to count the decimal places in my factors. Count how many decimal places there are to the right of the decimal point in each factor. Add the number of decimal places to get a total. Then multiply my numbers as if they were whole numbers, and then determine my decimal place. Start at the right of the product, move my decimal point to the left, the number of places that I got in step 2, the total number of decimal places in my factors. So here I've got 0.05 and 0.0062, very small decimals. My estimation would be that I'm going to get a very small decimal. 5 times 60 would be 300. So a decimal that is below decimal point 00300. So I'm going to multiply 0, 5, and I'll line up my decimal places here. And I've got that decimal point. So if I just look at these whole numbers, 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Erase that. And I've got this placeholder. I could do this 2 times 0. We have nothing there. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. Okay. And then I've got my 6 times 0, my 0 times 0 0.5, 0 times 0 0.5, 0 as that placeholder, that whole number. I've got 1, 2 places to the right of the decimal point, 1, 2, 3, 4 places to the right of the decimal point. 2 plus 4 is 6. I will need 6 places to the right of my decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place my decimal point. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the right of my decimal point. Another example, 0 and 52 hundredths times 3 and 3 hundredths. Estimating 0.52 is close to 5 tenths, which is 1/2, times 3. Half of 3 is 1.5. So my estimate would suggest that my answer should be about 1.5. Now I'm multiplying the whole numbers without the decimal place, if those confuse me. Using traditional multiplication, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 5 is 15. My placeholder in the ones place, 0 times 52 is 0. Multiplying by 300, 3 times 2, 3 times 5, add. And again, I'm going to count the decimal places. 1, 2 here, 1, 2 here, for a total of 4 places. In my product, I will need to have 4 places after the decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Decimal point, 1, 2, 3, 4 places after the decimal. And if I look at this, I'm right on to where my estimate was. So again, if I'm going to multiply this way, I count the number of decimal places in my factors, add those together. I must have the same number of decimal places in my answer. Now it is your turn to give an estimate and the exact answer to 3 problems. I'll move this down. You've got 3 problems. First, give an estimate, then multiply to get the exact answer. You can either use your estimate to help you place a decimal point, or you can count the number of decimal places in the factors and have that many decimal places in your product. End of lesson 2.5.